Hello, everyone. My name is Olivia. I'm 47 years old, and this is one of the most unbelievable stories I've ever experienced. Even now, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it, but I can't stop replaying the events in my mind.
No items shaped like a cell phone were allowed in our pockets at work. At first, I assumed it was a mistake, but soon they began reprimanding people for having wallets, packs of gum, or other rectangular objects in their pockets. No shorts were allowed during summer in Florida. In middle school, giving someone a high five earned you a detention. High fives were completely banned. At graduate school, you couldn't meet your internship requirement with your current job, even if it was directly relevant to your field of study. This meant many adults with established careers had to spend time doing low-level intern tasks at other companies instead of counting their actual jobs toward the requirement. When I was in 5th grade, the school installed a traffic light in the cafeteria. If the light was red, everyone had to remain completely silent. I have no idea why they enforced silence during lunch, but it was ridiculously stupid. In high school, detention rules forbade doing homework. Brilliant idea, stopping at-risk students from completing schoolwork during the one time they were most likely to do it. We were given only 20 minutes of bathroom breaks per week. That's just 4 minutes a day. I once got written up for exceeding the limit. In the meeting, I told my younger supervisor, "You know I'm not a young man, right? Bathroom trips take me longer." She refused to discuss it. At my driving school, the instructor said that if someone were chasing you and shooting at you on the highway, you still shouldn't exceed the speed limit. One girl asked, "So you're supposed to just get shot?" The instructor replied, "Yes." My workplace has a strict dress code. I work in a call center, for crying out loud. I don't think wearing a t-shirt would affect my ability to do tech support. A girl was called to the principal's office because her skirt was deemed too short, even though she was wearing leggings underneath. The principal made her take off the skirt and wear just the leggings, which were more revealing since she was also wearing a thong. Game Boys were banned because one kid cried after losing a Pokémon battle. Not only were Game Boys outlawed, but Pokémon itself was also prohibited for being too violent. The year 1998 was wild. Restrooms could only be used after the final class of the day. I attended a charter school where we had moral focus assemblies every morning. They were completely pointless. The school also banned Halloween, replacing it with a harvest festival, where each class had to dress up as a vegetable. My class was assigned eggplant. It was humiliating. My school had a bizarre rule: no running and no slow walking. If you ran, you got detention. If you walked too slowly, you also got detention. What were we supposed to do, float? In 7th grade, the school introduced a no-hugging rule. After the principal announced it, about 150 students gathered and created a giant group hug outside the office. Administrators began pulling kids out randomly and sending them to detention. Outside the cafeteria, there's an area with tables for students to eat. However, no one was allowed to eat there. It made no sense. When I was in 8th grade, the principal decided that bad things only happened when students gathered in groups larger than 5. Teachers would break up any group of more than 5 students. No conversations between co-workers were allowed at any time. Imagine that in a retail store where 95% of employees are teenagers. Good luck enforcing that. Unless supervisors were watching us, we'd sneak in a little chat. Could you imagine spending over 5 hours a day with the same people for months and never speaking to them? Right after I graduated, a new principal at my high school banned girls from carrying purses. I jokingly told my younger sister to keep a tampon tucked behind each ear like a pencil, saying that if all the girls did it, the rule would be revoked. It turned out to be unnecessary. Enough parents complained, and the rule was dropped within a week. The rule was supposedly about preventing concealed weapons, but our rural school had no history of violence or gangs. Holding a door open for someone else was a punishable offense. During my junior year of high school, a teacher collapsed in class and went into full cardiac arrest. A student who called 911 was suspended because policy required an administrator to authorize such calls. It was ridiculous. That same year, a student in my class cracked their skull during a seizure, and it took the administration 30 minutes to approve the emergency call. I attended a Catholic high school without uniforms, but with a strict dress code. Students could wear any color of dress pants as long as they didn't have patch pockets, and most solid-colored shirts with collars and sleeves were allowed. However, the handbook had an oversight. If the student wears shoes, they must be one of the following styles. If someone noticed this during my sophomore year and started attending class barefoot, the trend quickly caught on, and teachers couldn't give detentions since the students weren't technically breaking any rules. The administration eventually mailed home an amended dress code requiring students to sign it or face suspension. While I thought the escalation was ridiculous, I personally avoided the trend because the idea of going barefoot in the bathrooms grossed me out. TLDR, students were forced to promise to wear shoes. We weren't allowed to have baked goods on campus. In first grade, I received over 20 detentions for running in the sandbox. By the end of the year, the school barred me from going on the field trip. My parents took me at the same time, and the principal suspended me for the last day of school because I was there, even with my parents. It didn't matter, though, because my grandma took me shopping instead. The daylight rule required a visible gap between boys and girls at all times. I was reprimanded multiple times for sitting too close, walking alone with a boy, or even hugging male friends. Apparently, according to the school, a simple hug, hello or goodbye, automatically led to sex. At my high school, loitering was strictly prohibited. Students couldn't be on campus more than 30 minutes before classes began or 30 minutes after they ended. Once on campus, leaving and returning was grounds for immediate expulsion, something that happened to a classmate of mine. I rode the bus to school, and one day it arrived early and sped, getting me to campus 45 minutes before classes began. Since I couldn't leave, I stayed in the hallway and started working on homework. The cafeteria and library weren't open yet. The vice principal found me there, took me to his office, and called my mom. He suspended me for a day for loitering and had my grandparents pick me up. He then escorted me off campus just 5 minutes before classes were set to start. If a cell phone rang during class, everyone in the room had to immediately stand up with their hands on their heads until an officer arrived to conduct a search. Refusing to follow this rule could result in being arrested. There was a student who plugged in his phone to charge it, which enraged a teacher. The teacher demanded he unplug it, threatening suspension and a fine for using the electricity. The student thought it was a joke and laughed, but he was suspended and made to appear before a committee. When he went to the meeting, he handed them a dime and walked out, laughing because he knew the school had spent thousands of times more on the process than the electricity used. At a previous job, we weren't allowed to talk to coworkers over the low walls of our cubicles. Instead, we were required to walk over and sit next to them to talk. Additionally, personalized screensavers were banned, and women couldn't wear black hosiery because it was deemed too provocative. I was once given a detention for using the wrong doors to exit the school. These weren't emergency exits, just doors that were closer to where my bus was parked. At my school, carrying water bottles was banned. To have one in class or the hallway, you needed a doctor's note. This was the first time I began to seriously question the country I live in.